We've got New York in the house. We've got Philadelphia, Queens, Delaware, Philly, Ithaca, New York, Maryland, DC, awesome. Philadelphia, very cool. You know, and we had a youth retreat this morning via Zoom, and we all talked about our favorite fruits. And I bring that up because, you know, watermelon popped into my mind. And you think, the kids were like, why watermelon, Miss Janae? You know, and, you know, watermelon can be kind of hard on the outside. Like a magazine is print, right? But it's not until you crack it open, till you peer inside, till you let the juicy stories kind of sink in, that you get the full benefit of a watermelon, of a magazine, of a book, of a movie, of a person. And the other beautiful thing about a watermelon is that they're filled with seeds. And these seeds could remain in the watermelon if it's never opened, or these seeds can take root outside in the ground. And so I think of each of the contributors, each of the young people that have been a part of Motivos over the years, of the almost 15 years now. And those seeds go out into the world and they're making an impact, they're making a contribution. And the other thing that we talked about this morning was that those seeds need fertile soil, and they need raindrops, and they need sunshine. And so we talked a little bit about who was that soil for us? Who are those raindrops? Where do we find sunshine? And that's where the supporters in our lives come into play. That's where our parents come in. That's where our counselors come in. That's where our teachers and after-school program coordinators and mentors come into the picture to help those seeds grow and blossom and flourish and make more watermelons to pour into more people's lives. And so that was a little bit of the conversation we had just this morning. And the youth do meet, we meet weekly, and we take turns talking about college and career exploration, creative writing and character building. And once a quarter, we have a retreat. So that's a little bit of the background information. And I'm just going to share my screen here. So Motivos, if you aren't familiar with Motivos, it has 4 sections in each edition. So we've got culture, life, college, and career. And I started the magazine when I was in graduate school studying bilingual bicultural studies. My mom's side is Hispanic through Spain to Puerto Rico to New York City. My father's side is Polish Hungarian. And I did a bit of exploration of my own roots in graduate school. And I took courses in bilingual bicultural studies, in Caribbean Spanish. I took courses in pluralism in society, in bilingual education. And what really captured me, and probably because both of my parents are teachers, were teachers, was the academic achievement gap, the access gap, the equity gap, the opportunity gap. And when I saw a gap, I was like, how do we close this divide? How can I be a bridge person in this sphere? And so I did my thesis on that. I twisted the arm of my advisor to help me write a business plan because I didn't want my thesis to just sit on a shelf and collect dust. I wanted to do something. I wanted to take action. And how many of you out there know that there's a need in this world? There's some gap, some lack, some area where you could apply yourself. And you know that if you just focused on it, you could do something big. Just put that in the chat if you could, whether it's racial injustice, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's access to technology. What is that in your life? And just put that in the chat, because those are the things that the students at Motivos think about. They talk about. We discuss things like that, and we bring those stories to light in the magazine to try to help the community become more aware of what it is that's facing us every day. And so that's what I was looking at in graduate school, and I said, what can I do? I took my background in media, so I worked in publishing in Boston, Massachusetts, in Sydney, Australia, in Philadelphia, and I said, how can I harness the power of media to bring educational resources and role models to a community that needs the access? And at the same time, how can I build a platform so that the stories get out from that community to help shape the social narrative? Because mainline media was not doing it. It was not giving the true full stories of what was happening in the community. So I wanted to create the platform, and pass the mic. So today I'm going to show you a little bit about what that platform is and then pass the mic. So Motivos has 4 sections: culture, life, college, and careers. Culture, because that is where we find the strength in our roots. We figure out what made us who we are, who poured into us so that we may pour into others, whose shoulders are we standing on, who's got our back. That's culture. And there's stories about cultural expressions and exchange, and you'll hear from the contributors in that regard. And then life. So life section of the magazine is navigating where we are today to get to where we want to go tomorrow. What are those barriers in front of us? What is holding back our mental abilities from jumping to the next step? Well, who's got us in chains? Well, how have we got ourselves held back? How can we overcome those difficulties, those barriers? College application process, right? Affording it. Who can help us in that regard? We've got experts in that section of the magazine, and careers, exploring different career fields. So we do that in our weekly sessions through interviews with experts, through panel discussions, through peer-to-peer talking. And that's what we're tackling in the content of the magazine as well. Now, the magazine is not just 2-dimensional, guys. The magazine is 3D. And what I mean by 3D is that we're out there in the community. Right now with coronavirus, we're doing a lot by Zoom. Last week, I spoke in Tokyo, Japan via Zoom. So there's a lot of things that Zoom has, opened up to us, right? Even as it's closed some doors. These are pictures when the community was more open. So Alicia there, our poet ambassador, on stage at the Only Arts Festival. We've got a video camp that we did for a Gear Up program at Drexel University. Sasha's on stage over there with her blue hair, which caused her to get kicked out of school. And she's speaking up about why self-expression was so important right there at the stage at Feria del Barrio with Taller Puertorriqueño. So that's how we're getting out in the community. These are some of the other ways we get involved. We do youth empowerment programs. And so on the bottom left, you can see a peer leadership conference that was with 72 students from 9 different schools last fall. And in the middle there, you see a picture of us doing an interview. That's at Concilio's old building, which is torn down now. When Alan and Kyrie were on the team, they just graduated from high school. That was with some immigration lawyers. And upper left, interviewing folks in the military. So we've engaged over 30,000 youth now since 2006 in these programs, which can be brought out to schools and after school programs. So speak up at the end if you want one of the young people to come speak to your school. It's easier now with Zoom, or if you'd like an interactive program to come to your school. We go out and do workshops, keynotes, conferences. So you can see, this is Mariana Brassetti in the bottom. The middle one is Joy at Taller Puertorriqueño presenting. Josh is doing a video workshop here with kids right in Fairhill. And so some of those topics are write your way to college, find your why, find your future, how to ace the interview. So these are for high school and college students. We also do youth development for youth program workers. And a snippet of behind the scenes, so the mentoring component. High school, college students can come in as a mentee and move up to an intern and move up to a paid stipend-bearing fellowship. So you'll meet students at all ranges of that spectrum today as well. And we are grateful to have grown the magazine organically. There are subscription agencies that help us do this, but we're out into about 1,400 schools, youth-serving organizations, public libraries, and prisons. Right now, we have about 85,000 readers in 42 states and 4 countries, and it keeps growing. We're adding a lot of digital components at this stage. So that's kind of how we've pivoted with the times. And these are some of the organizations that we've been fortunate enough to work with. And I mention this because as those relationships have grown, as those doors have opened over the years, I'm bringing the youth through those doors. So they've traveled with me then to present at the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Conference at what was the National Council of La Raza and now is Unidos US. The alumni who've gone on to work for NBC Peacock Studios have given us private tours. So these are connections that then open further doors. So we're super grateful to work with different partners, and we open doors to our partner schools through these partnerships as well. So for example, Olney, Mariana Brassetti, Kensington Kappa, Kensington Business, CAP, they've all been the recipients of guest speakers from the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Institute coming into their schools at no charge because of their partnership, subscribing in bulk from the magazine. So we try to open doors And I personally put as much effort as I can into doing that because I think it's so important. I grew up in a town of less than 1,000 people with a traffic light on each end. And there weren't a lot of opportunities to do things outside of those walls, if you will. If you didn't have a car and you didn't have a license, if you didn't have a parent who was in the know, who had other connections, it could be a very sheltered experience in terms of exposure to the world. And so I know from firsthand experience how important it is to get those doors to open just a crack, and let especially the students who want to peer through that crack and see the rest of the world, give them that opportunity, not just to peer through, but to walk through. And today you're going to get to meet those students who are walking through those doors and getting in the magazine, getting their voice heard on the platform that is Motivos. And today we are super, super grateful and super thankful to Taller Puertorriqueño, who's been around 45 years, who's presenting their platform to us to further explore our voice and get the word out there. So without further ado, I'm gonna call up, I guess you could say, our first contributor, Karime Font. So Karime, I'm passing the mic.
Hi everyone. As Janae said, my name is Karime Font. I am an 11th grader at the Arts Academy at Benjamin Rush, where I go for visual arts, and I am an editorial fellow for the Motivos magazine. This week actually marks my first year as being part of the Motivos team. I became involved at last year's Meet the Author series here at the Taller. I joined because I have always liked writing, but I wasn't sure if I could make it into something productive. Working for the magazine has really helped me develop my voice as both a writer and as a person. And it has really changed me in ways that probably would have developed later in life or not at all. Before getting involved, I was really lost with what I wanted to do after high school. And almost a year later, I have met so many wonderful people, participated in so many opportunities presented to me by Motivos, and I am considering studying journalism in college. So my first article that I wrote for Motivos, it's part of the Resilience edition, is called The Yuma in Cuba. And this is about my experiences visiting my family in Cuba and how that society compares to the one I know here in the United States. So just some behind the scenes info for you guys. This article was originally 7 pages, and by some miracle of God, we managed to cut it down to 2. Here's an excerpt of that. As a Cuban American Yuma, I was able to briefly experience the duality of the Cuban persona and learn about a lifestyle and a value system that is different than my own. The obscurity that clouded my conscience cleared as the diversified nature that lines the highways, the humanity, resilience, and family values of my people, and the vibrant living timeline that is Havana became fragments of my own identity. I was finally able to meet the untouchable island, to understand some of its mystique, and feel like so many other Cuban Americans do, that despite its defects, it holds an eternal glow in the midst of our humanness. So I wrote this because I felt like it was important to talk about an island that is comparably isolated from the rest of the world, and to express my perspective as a Yuma, which means a person from the United States, or in my case, as a part Cuban American. And I just wanted to clear up any curiosities or misconceptions people may have about Cuba. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Karime. It's Rodolfo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It was a great piece. It was a great piece. So my question is, are you looking forward returning to Cuba in the next few years, or is this like a one-time thing? And because the piece was nice, I don't know if your plans are to return to Cuba.
So I visited Cuba twice. Each visit lasted a week and some change. And I do plan to return to Cuba to visit my family, and perhaps for a longer period of time. I'm not sure when, because with this whole coronavirus, it's hard to tell when everything can happen again, but I plan to go back soon as soon as everything, as soon as there's a more certain future.
And Rafi asks, ¿Qué es una yuma? Or what is a yuma?
A yuma, it could mean, well, it means two things actually. If you're using it as a noun, it's Cuban slang for like the United States. So for example, oh, ella está en la yuma, meaning like she's in the United States. Or if you're using it as like, or it could also refer to somebody who's from the United States. So for example, yo soy una yuma, because I'm from the United States, even though I'm Cuban. Like I am Cuban, but I was born here. So that would make me a yuma.
India asks, how devastating is the embargo?
Well, it is like the effects are very in Cuba. The effect, like you can see how it's been affecting the people. It's just there's a lot of like problems, like not only with food, but with resources and just access to other things that they might have had before, even if it was just a little bit of access to what was happening in the outside world. Because now with this embargo, like everything just feels so isolated. And you can see that like compared to the last time you can see that compared to the first time I went there. Before I went there, there was an embargo, but there wasn't the one that was more recently like put in. And the second time I went there, there was a very hard time finding like food in general. My dad, when he went to go get water for the house with my uncle who lives there, they had to visit like 3 different places to find water, drinkable water. So it's just, it's very heartbreaking to see like how this embargo is affecting the people and my family. Okay, so if that's all the questions everybody has, I will now pass it on to Gabby. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I'm in 9th grade and I go to St. Basil Academy. So I started in Motivos because my dad found their page in Facebook and then took us to the last Meet the Author last year, or was it this year? I forgot. But we went to the last Meet the Author, and then after that, like, I started going to the meetings, and this was my first published piece. It's about I had to change schools, or I had to like move. So it was because I was nervous about having like the change in my life, and like it was a big deal to me. So I had to so I wrote a piece about that, and at first like I was really scared, and then towards the end, like after I kept on doing what I like to do, which is swimming, like I started feeling better and then like more calmer, which is like basically what the poem is about. I dive into the pool head first, full of worries, my head spinning with restless thoughts about my future. I'm frightened by the big changes happening in my life. My face hits the water and I realize that nothing is going to be the same ever again. My body is completely underwater. The water is cool and bubbly, but comes with soft, muffled noises. My feet are tingly from the little bubbles, and my arms are chilled by the cool water. Yet in the tranquility, my mind is agitated. My mind forgets of all my brooding thoughts as I remember the need to breathe. My head emerges to the surface and I gasp for air. And for a split second, my mind comes to ease. However, when I put my head back into the worrisome sea, my legs start moving. Hold on, I'm nervous.
It's okay.
My legs start moving at a faster rate. My legs start moving at a faster rate, meeting the air, then coming back down. My arms start swinging at a constant rate and a constant pattern that I repeat in my head over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, breathe. My mind is calmed by the steady repetition. However, as I finish a lap, I need to do a flip turn, ruining the comfort of my pattern, and the restless thoughts come back. This time, I can't escape my worries, for they are too strong. I remember my dilemmas. I remember that I might never see some of my friends again. I remember that whatever I choose will impact my entire life for better or worse. I remember that everything
I remember that everything that was once familiar to me will not be anymore. I fight back tears. All of my worries turn into anger, which turns into determination. I start to swim even faster. My arms start paddling furiously, and my tired legs kick faster. The forward motion brings a new calm to my troubled mind. Tranquility bubbles up, soothes my worries. Change doesn't need to be feared. Life is all about changes. No matter how big the dilemma is, I know that I can thrive to see the wall, and the muffled voices become louder. The denial stops, and I realize there's more to life than staying in a place I've always known. There are adventures, risks, and potential for greatness. My mind that was once filled with despair is now filled with ambition because I know that I can get through that what lies ahead. I am filled with excitement as I reach out to touch the wall. I smile slowly, spreads across my face as I pull myself out of the pool, ready to dive into the next one.
Aw.
Thank you guys.
Go, Gabby. Yeah, that was beautiful. I see round of applause. Exactly.
All right, mommy, it's all right.
That's hard stuff. And that poem was deep because it was personal. And you could see how much she was struggling to even like revisit that time in her life, which wasn't that long ago, right? It's fresh. It's a feeling. And now her school, I think I can share this, right? Her school's closing. So now she has to change schools again. So I don't know if you're able to take questions, Gabby, if you just want to catch your breath and take some at the end, you let us know. Maybe put a thumbs up if you're okay to answer questions. If not, maybe at the end. What do you think? People are saying beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Amazing. Loved your poem. It hit home for me. Huge high fives. Animo, Gabby. Yeah, go, go. We love you, Gabby. Thank you for sharing. I'll let you catch your breath. And we'll have some time at the end for you to share. I see Gaynor has joined us now. Gaynor is coming in from Costa Rica, guys. And I think he may be presenting en español. ¿Sí, Gaynor? ¿Quieres hablar en español?
It's possible. It's
Sí,
possible.
todo
No
es
problem.
posible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Let
so
me
much.
go back into my PowerPoint and get Gaynor's, and then I will bring it up for you all to see. This is beautiful. So the front cover of our last magazine is a picture taken in Costa Rica. It's the Vision edition. And Gaynor is the biologist on an island called Isla del Coco, which is between the Galapagos and the western coast of Costa Rica. So it's a magical, beautiful part of the world that I aspire to get to one day. And the connection came through my husband, whose friend from high school works on the island and knows Gaynor and is a park ranger there. And the park ranger's son went to volunteer for 30 days. He's only 12, Matias. I don't think he can join us today, but you've got to read the story. It's really amazing. Without further ado, let me share my screen and get you guys Gaynor Golfin.
Thank you very much. And the introduction for English, a small It's little now speak English. My name is Helena Golfing. I am working for 15 years in Cocos Island National Park. Cocos National Park is the most beautiful the national park into Costa Rica. I am going into Cocos Island in the 36 years in the boat. In the for working on the 21 persons, the only rangers and two paramedics or doctors. Is usuality for 30 days in Cocos Island or 4 weeks in the national park, staying on the working in the for recreation. Its principal problem is the fishermen. The fishermen all the time around all the island. I am the working for the control is different words in the Cocos. On the Cocos only one 11, 17, and the Rangers. Only 3 women is the principal activity in the Cocos Island and the tourists for diving. In the 50 and the top 10 say, sí, the top 10 for the place for diving. Y yo quisiera agradecerles mucho a Jenny, a Michael Pérez, que es mi compañero guardaparque, que se pueden ver en la foto con su hijo, y a Arturo, al señor Arturo Aguero, por ayudarnos y hacer posible llevar este pequeño reporte o esta pequeña experiencia de un guardaparques en este sitio, que es sitio Patrimonio de la Humanidad, que recientemente fue denominado como Blue Park o sitio de importancia a nivel mundial, y que nos enorgullece mucho y que queremos que ustedes conozcan más de las áreas protegidas que tenemos en América, porque consideramos que, como dicen por ahí, para proteger lo que tenemos que conocerlo. Y créanme que todo de una u otra manera está interconectado. Lo que hacemos en la tierra nos afecta en el mar. Como dice nuestra gran científica Sylvia Earle, que tal vez algunos la conocen, sin azul no hay verde y sin guardaparques tampoco hay conservación. Y yo creo que todos los que amamos la naturaleza, así como ustedes que se van a interesar en este reporte, somos esos guardaparques y amantes de la naturaleza. Muchas gracias y muchas bendiciones de parte de todos mis compañeros.
And Golfin was saying what affects the earth affects the sea for those of you who don't speak Spanish. And without the blue, there is no green, the interconnectedness of all of us. Rafi's given a thumbs up. That was beautiful. And in the magazine, there's 4 full pages designated to this. So there's 2 in English and there's 2 in Spanish. So if you know one language or the other, you can use the magazine to figure out the language that you don't know yet. That's the beauty. Part of the beauty of the magazine. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Gaynor Golfin? En inglés o en español, no importa. Lisa can translate. I could attempt to translate. Carmen could jump in there. Arturo could jump in there. Many people could jump in. Olive.
We have one question. I'm not sure if this was for Gabby or for Heiner, but what inspired you to start writing?
I think that's for Gabby.
I think so too.
All right, we'll say that one for the end. Or she said for both. Either one can answer. We'll ask Gabby at the end, that one. But
here's one. How do I volunteer? It looks beautiful. That's coming in from Roy Juarez Jr., one of the speakers that we've brought here to Philadelphia. He's a nationally acclaimed speaker. So if you don't know Roy Juarez Jr., look him up. But he's asking, how do I volunteer? ¿Cómo ser un voluntario, Gaynor?
Sí, 30 días. Si Roy está muy interesado de ir como voluntario, que se comunique con Arturo o Jenny y con mucho gusto. Él viene acá a Costa Rica y después de ahí nosotros nos encargamos. Por un problema en la pandemia, esperamos a tener la apertura del voluntariado para el 2021. pero es bienvenido, no se tiene que pagar nada, nosotros le damos la alimentación, son 30 días, se trabajan 6 días y un día es el día libre para conocer y disfrutar, y nos ayudan en muchas tareas, en diferentes tareas. Es una experiencia muy gratificante y estamos a la puerta siempre y cuando podamos coordinar de la mejor manera para que sí pueda tener esa experiencia, y acá los estaremos esperando.
¿Y hay una limitación a la cantidad de gente que pueden voluntar en el mismo tiempo, Gainer?
Es por disposición del barco.
Ajá,
Es
ok.
por los espacios en los barcos. Nosotros viajamos en un barco de contrato y un convenio con las operadoras de turismo. Son, como les dije, eran 36 horas hasta viajar allá, y todo es diferente a los espacios. Entonces, sería, digamos, buscar la oportunidad de coordinar bien si hay un espacio o un proyecto específico en los que quisieran participar, y acá nos podemos, digamos, incluir en esos trabajos para que vean esa belleza a vivo y en todo color.
So I think that we are going to
Gracias,
look
Michelle.
for a funder, una patrocinador for un viaje de grupo hasta Costa Rica para para ser voluntarios en la isla de Coco, Gainer. I think so, because look, Michelle wants to go. Rodolfo says podemos ir a Costa Rica en grupo. Everyone wants to go. So he said some of the limitations are like how many passengers can go on the boat, and it's a 36-hour ride from the mainland to the island. And of course, right now things are kind of closed because of the coronavirus. They're waiting for things to open up again, which will probably be 2021. Yeah, everyone's saying this sounds so cool. Qué chévere. Woo, Costa Rica es hermoso. See, Michelle studied abroad in Costa Rica. I've been there. So Gainer's saying be in touch with Arturo, es mi esposo, or myself, and this is going to be a goal, guys, because travel is very limited right now. So when things open up, we're all taking all our time off. We're going to Costa Rica. We're going to get to Isla de Coco. I can see this now. Someone's taking a sabbatical to go. There we go. All right, Roy is in. Wow, muchísimas gracias. Any other questions for Señor Golfín?
Hemos tenido, sí, grupos que nos han visitado, y poder que tengan esa experiencia. Consideramos que hemos estado muy abiertos a que nos visiten, para poder nosotros compartir con todos, digamos, la naturaleza que tenemos nosotros allá. Como le digo, lo único problema es a la hora de tener los espacios en los barcos. Ok, vamos a ver acá.
Hay una pregunta más.
Sí.
¿Cuál es algo que la naturaleza le ha enseñado sobre la vida?
Es eso, amar y cuidar y respetar, ¿verdad? Es un tema de respetar la naturaleza. Ha sido un tema de respetar la naturaleza. Es más que todo lo que nosotros hemos tenido en cuenta, eso, amar y respetar la naturaleza. Este video es cortico, como les dije. Lo que quiero es enseñarles un poco. Este video lo hicimos para la celebración del Día de los Océanos, y lo que quiero es enseñarles así rápidamente. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a usted. Wow.
Thank you.
Don't you just breathe easier seeing all that green and all that blue, you guys? Whee! Makes us want to go right out there. Gracias, Señor Gainer, Golfin. So next up, we have the section of life. So the life, like I talked about, is how do we get over those barriers in front of us to see past what's going on? And so I'm going to bring up now Liz Mari Ortiz, and she has several articles published in the editions this year in Motivos.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This here. So my name is Liz Mari Ortiz, and I'm a sophomore at Holy Family University, and my major is English and Secondary Education. I started writing for Motivos in August of 2017, so already 3 years now, going on 4 years. But actually, my mom knew Janae from a long time ago working in a newspaper, El Sol. And since they knew each other, Mommy said, you know, Janae has a magazine and you like writing. I've always had a passion for writing. She said, maybe you could write for her. And we set up the interview in August, and I've been writing for Motivos ever since. And I've had so many articles written and published in the magazine, starting from personal stories to even interviews with Christian Daniels, who's actually a Billboard nominated artist, which was really, really amazing considering I only did that as a senior in high school, really. So through Motivos, I've actually been given a lot of opportunities for writing, and it really helped me grow as a writer and also as a person, because I got to meet so many different people thanks to Janae and her connections and all the things I was allowed to do through Motivos. And in this edition in particular, I actually have 2 articles. The first one is in defense of the Visco girl, which was kind of like an informative piece that I wanted to write. Some of you guys might remember that in summer of 2019, there was this trend on TikTok, like the Visco girl, and people became very environmentally aware. You know, there was the metal straw trend, and people made trends of reusable bags. Like you could buy a $50 one at Urban Outfitters, and people were really becoming more aware of the environment and how we can impact it, especially people that were younger, which was something that wasn't heard of before. And like the last speaker was saying, you know, the environment is something we have to protect, and it's something that if we want it to remain beautiful, we have to take extra steps. So in this article, I have some research-based habits that you can partake in, such as ditching plastic, cleaning eating, and lifestyle changes. And I wanted to highlight that in this article because I feel like something that especially younger people should be looking into is how we can leave less of a carbon emission footprint, but rather a footprint that rather like encourages the growth of green and clean air in the atmosphere. And the other article I wrote was an interview with Gabriela Sanchez. It's called Through the Eyes of the Artist. She was actually our Inspirations in the Community nominee for this edition. And what she's doing is she's actually uplifting the Hispanic community through art and theater, which is something that I actually am very passionate about because I went to an arts high school. And what Gabriela is doing is that she's actually creating plays and theatrical productions that are based in the Hispanic community. And they actually tell the stories of Latino characters, Latinx characters. And it's something that was very lacking in the theater industry, as she said. If you read in the article, she talks about how representation, yep, Power Street Theater Company, that's her company. Thank you for reminding me. And what she's really trying to do is bring more Hispanic voices into the art community because we're very underrepresented there, and especially through Hispanic-based stories. So not just, you know, the famous plays, but rather making more realistic, more grounded, and more inclusive stories. And she also offers a lot of advice for people that are aspiring artists, whether it be art in general, because she also is a physical artist, like she has art that she sells, but also the written word and acting. And she says that self-advocacy helps us preserve our community and especially our art. Because one thing I do notice is that art is something that people tend to be afraid of, especially when pursuing writing as a career, drawing, acting. But she points out that it's something that really should be preserved and encouraged, especially in our youth, because it's one of the best ways that we can leave our mark on the world and uplift our community, especially the Latinx community. So yeah, are there any questions that you guys have?
Rafi's saying Power Street. Yeah. Gabby's actually doing a training right now, or she'd be with us.
Yeah. Roy says yes. Let me see. What is my career goal? Well, when I was little, I always wanted to be like a published author. I love writing stories, but you know, that's being like a published author for like fiction is really hard. So I kind of then, through Janae, I started writing like nonfiction pieces, like journalistic writing, which is something I have always also been interested in. And I've been doing it through Motivos. And so I kind of want to do like English teacher slash magazine writer, I guess for now, because, and really just see where that takes me, you know, what doors it opens, because I always love writing. So in some way, shape or form, writing is always going to be in my life, whether it's teaching it or doing it for like big magazines and stuff. Thank you for your question.
Are there any other questions? You can also like raise your hand to ask them as well.
Why did you want? So I'm not gonna lie, I kind of became a Visco girl. I didn't really get the oversized shirts though, because it wasn't really my look, but I did get a Kanken book bag and metal straws. I really feel like it was a trend that no one was expecting. When I saw that it was trending and just the way it just became so big, like anywhere you went, it was like Kanken book bag, scrunchies, oversized shirt, metal straws, and it was intense. And the fact that it was a trend based on being environmentally aware and eco-friendly was really surprising, because it's not really something that we encourage the youth to take part in, because it's like, oh, it's not cool to be eco-friendly, but suddenly it was cool and it was fashionable. And I feel like by making it fashionable, they actually encourage people to do things that they would have otherwise not done. And people also made fun of the trend a little bit, like they kind of said it was basic. And I wanted to write this to kind of show, like, even if it was just like a basic trend, it was something that actually was beneficial to the environment. And it also kind of set a good example for younger people, because people still, like, I still use my metal straw. It's not something that really completely disappeared. It's always kind of taken with us. So they weren't that bad of a trend, the Visco girls. Thank you very much.
And is Pilar Gonzalez on the call? I know sometimes people call in under someone else's name on their screen. So this is as if we're standing in the room at Tyre and we're saying, is Pilar out there?
We have one more question, actually.
Okay.
Do you have any ideas on other trends that could help improve the environment / the world?
Do you want to share from your piece there, Liz Marty?
Oh yeah, I can. Sorry, I was responding to another thing in the chat. Oh, I did that privately by
That's right
accident.
in the article.
So there's some facts in the beginning. So just to kind of like solidify the notion that it is actually beneficial. But a few trends. So for ditching plastic, there were things like bamboo brushes, using metal water bottles, which I think a lot of people already do. And obviously the metal straws. But if you get a metal straw, don't throw it out. I threw mine out in the middle of a mall and I had to fish through the trash for it because I forgot. But it goes to show how we're used to just consuming waste, like just consume, throw it out. So I had to fish through it. It was embarrassing, but I still have it. I washed it. And fabric bags were something I definitely like. It's actually even more convenient than plastic bags. And I see that everywhere. Like you could get cute ones at Urban Outfitters if you want to be bougie, or you could get cheaper ones. Clean eating was something also that I feel has been a lot more encouraged now, because there's this whole, like, with quarantine came like this diet and like healthy lifestyle culture, which is good to a certain extent. So really the tips I put in there that have been proven are like buying locally grown produce, because it has less like preservatives and stuff, and it's more natural. Eating less packaged foods, because obviously that has a lot of, you know, preservatives in it. And also trying vegetarianism or veganism, not converting completely, but I actually started like trying things like vegan sausages, or like sometimes I just wouldn't make a meat, or I wouldn't use dairy. Like I would use you can use almond milk. That's not really like a dairy, or oat milk and things like that. Like those are trends that I feel like have really stuck. It's not even like a trend, it's just like culture now, but you're actually really doing a change for the better. Definitely a clean eater. Yeah, I feel like it just tastes better too. Once you start, these are habits that I know it sounds redundant, like reduce, reuse, recycle. You get told that since you were in middle school, but once you actually start doing it, like I would feel bad if I'm not taking out my recycling bin. It's something that just kind of becomes part of who you are. And at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're trying to leave behind like just a cleaner, better planet, because we only get one, we have to protect it because we can't just buy another one. So if you want to just take these steps, like the other ones that are included in the article too, another trend that I think probably, because you asked about trends, I think fast fashion is going to die out. And it's possibly going to be, because I mean, it's more expensive, but like more eco-friendly clothing. I think people are getting into that, especially because thrifting has become very popular. So I'm calling that thrifting is going to be the best trend.
And Roy is asking which article has affected you the most as a writer?
Oh, I didn't even see the chat. I'm sorry. I think all of them. Like I loved all of them. All of them have been so memorable. I feel like the most as a writer, it has to probably be the interview with Christian Daniel, because that was it was almost scary, because here I am and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to interview like a Billboard nominated artist. And yeah, that's the issue. And I was just like, okay, I don't know if I'm even qualified to do this, because it was almost intimidating. Like I could literally see this guy performing on my TV and I'm asking him questions. And he was just like adoración. Like he was the best person like to talk to. He was so chill and so nice, and he had so much to like say, and it was such a natural conversation. And I feel like writing that, it just all flowed out so naturally. I barely even had to edit that article too. You know, sometimes you have to edit a lot, but that one just came out and it was just like perfect. And it was such a fun article. And also the article I did on one of my classmates on Erica Rivera, that was an article that I wanted to do for her, especially because she was really talking about mental health in that issue. And this was the mindfulness edition. And it actually was like my first like front cover article. Yeah, and it was actually a picture I took and I edited it and everything.
In high school?
Yeah, in high school. I did that in my high school art class. I was editing that picture and writing that article. And that's another edition, an article that really kind of stuck with me, because it was really important for her too. She was at a point where she felt like, you know, as a photographer and as an artist herself, she was like, am I going to get recognized? And I was like, I got you. Like, let me do something for you real quick. And she really really appreciated it. That's kind of was like, that was my payment for it. I was happy about that.
And that was volume 13, number 1. We are now at volume 14, number 3. So Liz Marty,
forever ago.
For a while, yeah. Yep.
I know, I have a portfolio of like all my articles, and I just see that one and I'm just like, I love that picture so much. Recycle coffee grounds, like compost. Yeah, I wish I could compost, but like I like low-key don't like worms, so I don't know if I could have a little like compost thing. I would probably forget about it and just start smelling bad. Who would be your dream interview? So like, I know it's basic, but like I feel like I would like to interview like a big artist, or like not even big, but like an artist that like I adore. Like I don't know if you guys know like Sabrina Claudia or something. Like she's at that level where like I could possibly interview her. Like she's not like Ariana Grande would be like hard to land, you know what I mean? But like, I don't know, like someone that's like part of the like Latino community. No, Ariana Grande is not part of the Latino community, but she is like a Hispanic artist or something that's like, you know, up and coming or like really good. It'd be fun to interview. That'd be my dream interview. Or a politician.
You got to speak your dreams into reality.
Yes, I will.
If anyone on this call has any connections with Sabrina Claudio, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm manifesting it right now.
Yes, that's right.
Interview. Speak it into existence.
Is Pilar out there? I want to see if Pilar is there. If not, I'm just going to share. Can you guys see my screen now? And Liz Marty's sticking around. If you have more questions, I want to make sure everyone gets the chance to speak. So Pilar actually came to us. One of my student interns was researching who could answer questions for us on the front of relationships, whether it's between partners or parents, children, or peers, etc. And they came across a couple of child psychiatrists and bilingual child psychologists and psychologists. They narrowed in on Pilar. So she was our first relationship columnist in the relationship section. And she was getting her PhD at Temple University at the time. We were able to meet her in person in Philadelphia. She now works for a maximum security prison in California and has returned to the West Coast, but still writes for us remotely. And so this is her section in the magazine. And I thought she was going to be joining us today, but just look up the relationship section when you have a chance. Really pertinent steps that I've used in my own life that just take you 1, be ahead of where you were before, to deepen the relationships that you have. It helps with communication, particularly. It helps with distance. It helps with listening versus speaking. So check that section out. And then I'll bring Brian Rodriguez on. So Brian is a guest columnist. The students voiced that they wanted to hear more about financial stewardship and what to do with their money. And they were very interested in hearing about that topic. So we reached out to Brian, who was a former Inspiration in Our Community recipient of Motivos magazine. So Brian, I know you're juggling work right now, but if you can jump on, we'd love to have you and hear from you at this time. There he is.
No problem at all. Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me. Some background. My name is Brian Rodriguez. As Janae said, if you want to track back my Motivos relationship, I could not tell you. Probably back a decade or so. I think Janae might have a better sense than I do. It seems like for as long as I can remember, my mom and my family's been involved with Motivos and their writing and in the workshops and all. So some background on myself. I'm currently living in New York City. I work at Goldman Sachs. And what Goldman Sachs is, it's an investment banking firm. So what investment banking is, like traditional Wall Street is what I do essentially. Like I help companies run the stock market is an easy way to sum it up. Moved here after graduating from the University of Pennsylvania in 2018, born and raised in Philly. So I grew up in North Philadelphia, went to a school out on the main line called Harvard, Penn, and now in New York City. The reason why I wanted to write this article talking about your financial vision being 2020 is because I started late, probably late college. And then when I actually moved to New York City and got a full-time job, started to understand money management, budgeting, personal finance, because I was forced into it. So I kind of learned by mistakes more than being proactive. Like I had no idea, like, how do I create a budget? How do I save? How do I invest? All these core key competencies of personal finance, no one ever taught me. This is not something that was discussed in my house. And unfortunately, this is something that's not often discussed in underserved minority households that are financially insecure because there's not the surplus of money going around to have these conversations in a way that's not awkward or embarrassing within the household. So what I'm trying to do now, and I work with financial literacy organization in New York, and I did previously in Philadelphia, is trying to teach financial literacy to high school students, predominantly Black and Latinx students from underserved communities, to try to remove that stigma of being scared of money. I think that's the biggest aspect, and that's what I want to get across here, is that, I think a quote I mentioned was, achieving financial success is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a long journey and you get there by short milestones here and there. So some background on what I'm doing around personal finance, trying to help others come into, financial success by understanding just the basics of personal finance and how they interact with you on a daily basis. So that's something I'm really passionate about. Write about creating SMART goals in this article, which are specific, easily attainable goals to get to where you want to be in life in the future. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to ramble on for too much, but happy to answer questions about college, about my career, personal finance, whatever you want to ask.
Right, Eric asks, he says, some people I know say, I have nothing to save up for, so why am I saving money? How would you respond to that?
You're saving, you have a future, right? You want to save for retirement at the very least. You don't want to work for the rest of your life. So you want to start creating a fund, creating savings and investments that you can use to retire at 65. So one way, you've probably heard this term before, it's called a 401k. It's a retirement plan through your employer, so whatever company you work for. They'll help you build funds for you to retire and invest in the stock market for you. So you should be saving and investing, honestly, just to better yourself. I don't have to want a car next year or want to buy a house in the next 3, but I know at one point in my future, I don't want to work anymore and I just want to relax and go chill in a national park in Costa Rica and not have to worry about bills. So that's what I'm saving up for. And I actually do want to move to Costa Rica sometime in the future. So that's part of the plan. To answer any questions on getting to college, anything  how to start budgeting, how to start saving, investing,
So we actually have, Malay, are you on the call? We have a student who interviewed a bunch of her friends after reading your article, and they had a question for you.
We have another question in the meantime. What tips would you give college students for budgeting?
So first of all, got to figure out how much money you're working with. So what I was doing when I was applying to college and even while I was in college was constantly trying to apply to scholarships, because what scholarships do, they provide you like additional money to work with, to pay for your books, to pay for your meals, to pay for any necessities. So the first thing I would do is trying to get more income coming in, some more money at your disposal. So look for scholarships. There's scholarships for literally anything. There's scholarships for having green eyes, blue eyes, red eyes, kid you not. Scholarships for people that have left hands. There's an app called Scholly. I would recommend downloading that app. And that has an access like database of different scholarships. So as far as how to budget in college, after figuring out how much money you have to work with, the next thing I would do is figure out what you're spending money on. So maybe track back for the last month, the last 2-3 months, and say, what have I been spending my money on? I've been spending a lot of money on eating out, on groceries, on entertainment, like on the movies, on my car bills, whatever it is, figure out what you're spending money on, and you'll have that eye-opening insight experience like, oh, wow, I'm spending way too much money on eating out. I need to slow down there, and I'm not saving any money. So let me actually start saving money. So figure out where you're spending too much money, try to cut back there, and then also prioritize saving money for the future. So what I try to do with every paycheck is save at the very least 20%. This is never seen. 20% of paycheck goes right into my bank account, right into my savings, and don't have access to it in my checking account. So when you're budgeting, figure out how much money you have to work with from the beginning, try to pay more money, understand what your spending habits are, and then try to prioritize spending. Try to prioritize saving instead of spending.
And moving right along, Arturo Aguero, my husband, is next. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Hopefully you guys can see this one and bring it up on the screen. Arturo, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. All right, how are you? How are you, everyone? My name is Jorge Arturo Aguero. I'm the columnist of Jog with the Moral. I'm from Ciudad Neily, Costa Rica, all the way down south, near to Panama border. And well, right now I know there's some friends from Costa Rica and also from Dominican Republic watching us, How did I start on Motivos? 6-7 years ago, I started as a Genechi 6 and Motivos magazines, events, non-paying, non bodyguard, security, and then a lot of things happen on my life. A lot of things happens all the time, and I need to take that and share with everybody, with the kids mostly, and put a moral on it, right? And I mean, I want to read my piece on it. I'm gonna do it in Spanish because otherwise it would take me, 3-4 hours reading it. But okay, I'm gonna read my piece. Is everything all right? Can you hear me? Right?
Yep, we can hear you. Everyone's on mute. That's why they're not answering you.
Okay, perfect. Right, let me read my piece, okay? Mi profesor de mecánica en el Instituto Nacional de Aprendizaje, en español INA, Ángel Serrano, algunas veces interrumpía sus clases para darnos algún consejo, contar algún chiste o alguna frase que nos ayudara a desarrollar nuestros valores y principios. Como éramos un grupo pequeño, él quería asegurarse de que aprendiéramos a trabajar en equipo. Un día, durante un receso, nos dijo, ¿han escuchado que a los cangrejos disciplinados o no disciplinados los llevan en baldes separados? No, respondimos. El profe se puso en medio de nosotros, empezó a relatar, iba caminando 2 baldes llenos de cangrejos, uno con tapa y otro sin tapa. Extraño, ¿no? ¿Qué tiene que ver eso con la disciplina? Le dijimos, ¿verdad? El balde que va tapado es donde van los cangrejos discípulos, porque saben enlazar sus patas entre sí y se salen del balde. ¿Y por qué los que no llevan tapa son indisciplinados? Preguntamos. Porque cuando uno hace esfuerzo hacia adelante, además lo jalan de las patas hacia abajo. Eso es el chiste. Ahora la moraleja. Dice, hay varias moralejas en este relato. Una tiene que ver con el trabajo en equipo, cuya clave es cuánto podemos confiar en quienes nos rodean. En quienes te apoyan y van cuando avanzas en tu carrera y tus decisiones. También hay que saber que en todo momento de intensidad, tomarte un minuto para relajar la mente, respirando profundo. Hay varias moralejas en este relato. Una tiene que ver con el trabajo en equipo, cuya clave es cuánto puedes confiar en quienes te rodean, en quienes te apoyan y animan cuando avanzas en tus sueños, tu carrera y tus decisiones. También hay que saber que en todo momento de intensidad, tomarse un minuto para relajar la mente respirando profundo, o aunque sea con un mal chiste, es saludable. Ser parte del balde con tapa, es estar en los cangrejos correctos, ayudar, apoyar, enlazarse con buenas acciones y pensamientos positivos que hagan un fuerte para el triunfo. Al contrario, gastarás tus fuerzas tratando de encajar en el balde equivocado, donde al final serás arrastrado al fondo viendo cómo se esfuman tus sueños. Well, that's all I have. That's all I have right now. You know, and actually, I don't know if you guys can see me. I have a little cangrejo crab in my hand. But if you are looking for a friend, guys, I think Motivos could be your best friend. All right, that's all I have. Any questions?
You guys have heard that story. Maybe, I know it's a story often told in Puerto Rican culture as well, the crabs in the bucket story. Go ahead, nod your head if you've heard that story before, right? Yeah, Eric's saying laugh out loud. Did Arturo fall into the bucket? Nice one, Rafi. But the different stories, right? The different crabs in the different buckets are that, you know, if you're around the right group of friends, as you're climbing out, you're getting out and you're pulling them up, and they're getting out and they're pulling you up and they're getting out. If you're with the bucket with the wrong group of friends, as you try to get out, they pull you back in. They say, what? You're going after your dream? I'm having none of that. Come back down here. So the moral is, make sure you're in the right bucket of friends. Make sure you got the right crabs on your side. All right, I'm going to bring up Natalia Nottingham. Natalia was on the cover of our Resilience edition. So let me see if I can share the screen. Perfect. Natalia, passing the mic.
Okay, yeah, hi, I'm Natalia. I am a senior at Cornell University, and as Janae said, my work was in the Resilience themed edition, and my piece was titled The Secrets Behind the Scars, Masking the Psychological Pain of Prolonged Trauma. I wrote about how self-harm for me became a means of coping with the effects of trauma, and I wanted to write about this because I feel that this is a topic that is very, very highly misunderstood and often highly censored. So there's been a huge increase in the amount of discussion surrounding mental health recently, which is amazing, but often we are still either completely avoiding or censoring a lot of the really difficult and uncomfortable topics. And by censoring those topics, we're sending this message to those who are struggling that it's something that needs to be hidden. And it kind of just drove me crazy to think how many people there must be who were suffering in the same way that I was and not comfortable reaching out for the help they needed simply because of this ongoing stigma and this ongoing shame surrounding these issues, and because we're not talking about it. And the thing is, even when we do talk about it, it's often in terms of like numbers and statistics and diagnostic criteria, and those are all things that are difficult to relate to on a more human level, so difficult to connect to on a more emotional level. And I wanted to provide that other side to the story. I wanted to show what it was like to truly live with this on a daily basis in terms of the more human and the real and the raw, uncensored part of the story. And in doing so, I was hoping to both provide compassion to anyone going through something similar, and also to hopefully provide a different perspective to anyone who may not have previously understood what this was like. And I very, very passionately feel that this is something super important, because trauma is something that affects all of us. So even if you yourself feel you have not been through something that could be labeled as trauma, I can guarantee you that there are people in your life who have, and you might not even realize it, because often we don't appear to fit this stereotypical image of what you'd expect of someone who has been traumatized. But I think more importantly than that, no matter what you've been through, all of us have gone through points in our life where we are struggling or having a difficult time overcoming something. And sometimes we will be the ones providing support to others, and sometimes we will be the ones needing to receive that support. And I think we really need to normalize this idea that our strength and resilience doesn't depend on having to push through something alone, and our strength and resilience isn't defined or determined by how much or how little we need to lean on someone else in order to get through whatever it is that we're going through. So I'm going to read a short piece from my article that I think really captures the message that I want people to take away from this. So I wrote, "Trauma exists on a spectrum that in many ways affects every single one of us. We all must process difficult life events, and how we do that shapes our perspectives and influences our interactions with the world around us. Instead of being so quick to judge ourselves and others for how we respond, we should recognize that our responses developed as coping mechanisms and subconscious attempts to navigate the obstacles that we were facing. Instead of shaming ourselves for doing our best to survive, we need to start giving ourselves credit for all that we have survived. To those going through a tough time, reach out. You are not a burden, you are not selfish for asking for help, and you do deserve to be happy. Arriving at that place of happiness may be the hardest task you undertake, but it will be the most rewarding investment that you can make for yourself. You are worth that investment. To those supporting someone through a tough time, listen to understand, empathize, seek a new perspective, and forge connection. Even if there are no words to mend the situation, be a hand to hold, a shoulder to lean on, a body to hug. And for both groups, challenge the image that comes to mind when hearing the words mentally ill. It's those you'd least expect who may be carrying the heaviest burdens and fighting the darkest battles. Recognize that it is indeed possible to be vulnerable, yet still courageous, delicate, yet determined, fragile, yet resilient, and broken, yet relentless. And I'm just going to end by saying how grateful I am to Motivos for providing me with this platform to share my message and share my story. And I'm so inspired by hearing everyone's voices right now, and so inspired by the work that Motivos is doing to just connect different cultures and share such uplifting and powerful messages. So yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Natalia. Natalia, we dubbed Natalia the inspiration in our community for the Resilience Edition, which came out as coronavirus was rearing its head mid-March. And, you know, a big point that she's making there too is that we all need to be seen in defeat as well as in victory. So today we're all celebrating the success of being published and getting our voice out there, but we need to be seen, we need to be heard in those times of defeat when we're struggling, to raise our voice, to sit up straight, to even open our mouth. And that article is very powerful. If anyone would like to receive that article, I can easily send a link to the digital version of it. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity for everyone to subscribe and to support the work and to get a link to the latest edition as well. Now, Natalia and I, this is funny, right? So some of you know that I was a gymnast as well, also at Cornell, Division I, not nearly the same age as Natalia. So no, we weren't teammates and we did not know each other that way, but we had a coach in common. So the assistant coach when I was a gymnast there is still an assistant coach, 25 years later. So now you know how old I am, right? But she had put a story out there on her Facebook page, so social media, and I clicked it at like 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, and I read it, and I said, wow, this needs to reach our readers. And I wrote to Melanie, and Melanie wrote to Natalia, and Natalia wrote to me. And so this is how stories can happen, just noticing where they are. So Liz Marty, if you see Sabrina out there somewhere, you go after her, right? You follow up with her. But that's how the story came to be. And then as Natalia and I were corresponding, we realized, wait, we have met in person before. Do you want to tell them that story, Natalia?
Yeah, so Janae, so I am originally from Philadelphia, and Janae had come to speak at my high school. So I went to Masterman High School, and this was my senior year. So I was already in the process of applying to colleges, and I knew that Cornell was pretty much top on my list. And I remember Janae had mentioned when she was talking that she had a background where she went to Cornell and she was on the gymnastics team. So I went up to her afterwards and I said, I'm looking at Cornell, I'm a gymnast. And we kind of connected over that. And then when she reached out to me, when she read my story and reached out and asked if she could republish it, I emailed her back and I said, were you that same person I talked to after you spoke at my high school? So that was really funny. It's funny how it's such a small world. And yeah.
An Indian thing. She's a Masterman alum as well. Yay. And the thing with republishing, right? You have to get permission from the author and also from the publication it was in before. So what was the name of the other online publication?
Athlete Humanity. So it's a website that's dedicated to erasing stigma and mental health specifically for NCAA athletes.
Right. And then we often work with the original author to edit the piece, to edit it for length, edit it for content, edit it for perspective, perhaps. So there's a whole back and forth that still happens at that point. And the thing I want to say there is, Karima, your original Yuma in Cuba was 7 pages. Parts of that story could be ready for a different kind of publication, different audience, or a different format. And usually when Karima writes, it's very long. And so this is why I watch this, I see this, right? And recently connected Karima with an executive editor at a publishing house, because I really think Karima has a book in her, guys, right? So Carmen, I'm speaking this into the universe. Karima is going to be on your stage in the future as a published author of a book, all right? So watch out for that, everyone. Remember that. And
that would be fantastic.
See? Thank you, Natalia, though, for sharing your story, because you were super vulnerable in your story in the magazine, and it takes courage. It takes courage to do that. And many of us have been through traumatic experiences and have trouble putting them to words that others could understand. And your words help the reader empathize. They help the reader get as into your head and as into your shoes as is possible without actually being you. And you have an amazing way with words. And so I highly recommend that story. And like I said, at the end, we'll give you an opportunity to get those stories. Look, India saying Karima 2025 Pulitzer.
Do we have time for a question, Janae?
Yes.
Okay. Liz Mari asks, what were some ways in which you were able to overcome these hardships?
So I mean, like I mentioned, I think reaching out for support is a huge thing. So I was lucky to have an incredible support system. My parents were very supportive. My friends were very supportive. And I think that's really important for the days when you can't find the strength within yourself to keep going. I think having those people that you can reach out to who can see that strength in you, even when you can't see it in yourself, that's very, very helpful. But I think also one thing that's been helpful for me is just taking things one day at a time and just waking up every day and making a commitment to yourself to do what you can to heal, do what you can to help yourself in that moment. So, I mean, I'll be honest, like I still have this is still something that I'm working through. I'm still going to therapy and processing trauma, and that's something like no shame around that. But I still wake up some days and feel like I can't deal with this. So I think on those days, it's really just take things one step at a time. If like getting through the next month or the next week seems like too much, just like focusing on that one day and like making that commitment to yourself to keep fighting for that one day and like making that commitment to do what you can in that moment, whatever that means for you in that moment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Okay, I'm going to share the screen and bring up Olive. So Olive is our writing instructor, and they were instrumental in starting Olney High School's first ever youth magazine through Motivos connection there at the school for over a decade. And so very proud of the fact that Olive was able to pivot with the times, starting this magazine in January and having to pivot already in March to an online version. So Olive, passing the mic to you.
Hi, thanks everyone. It's really exciting to be here and hear from everyone. Yeah, so I've been working with Motivos for around 1.5 years now. Time flies. I serve both as a writing instructor, so I teach writing workshops for the team, and I work individually with writers to like help prepare their pieces for publication. And then I also help to start Only Magazine, which is like a Motivos supported student run publication at Only Charter High School. Fun story, we started that in January of 2020. Fun time to start a thing. And met, in person about 5 times before, everything went downhill with the world. But we were able to pivot to having a WordPress where students could just write about how they were feeling with quarantine. I think at first, we had all these great plans about doing all these interviews with other students in person and like coverage of like sports teams and stuff that ended up being just completely not what could happen. And I was really proud of the team's ability to say, okay, well, we're journalists, right? So we're writing about the world, and the world has changed, so we are going to change how we're writing. I also, in terms of, I can drop the WordPress in the Zoom chat in a minute. I also did want to touch on some of the work that I've been really honored to do with some of the people who are on this call. I think what's really special about like holding a teaching role with Motivos is that like all the team members are here because they actually want to be here. They actually want to write. And this can put me in the like kind of almost difficult position of taking a really excellent 1,000-word essay and saying, all right, this is great, we need to chop it in half. Looking at you, Karime. Or like, okay, you've prepared 25 like incredibly well-researched questions for this interview you're going to conduct. Now we need to cut it down so the interview doesn't last like 4 hours. And I think which is like such a privilege as a teacher, because I feel like so much of the time it's like to be given to like be working on something that's had so much effort already put into it is like such a gift. And I guess like I try my best to sort of use the editing process as a part of the writing process and like incorporate like critical thinking and asking questions and saying, okay, we're not just trying to cut this down so we can translate it and fit it into pages. We're asking ourselves like, what's the central theme of this piece? Like, what story am I telling? What details are indispensable, etc. And I think, oh, Michelle is trying to get back in. I think I let her in. I think my favorite moments working with Motivos students are like when a writer's words sort of like do the thinking for them. I want to highlight, I know we talked about the Visco Girl piece earlier by Lisa. I want to highlight because I have this vivid memory of talking to Liz Murray on the phone in the basement of a frozen yogurt place on Frankfurt where we were having a fundraiser. And I remember reading the draft and kind of like teasing out and thinking through this idea that like, hey, like people are kind of making fun of these young women for like starting this trend, but they're probably like doing more for the planet than a lot of like real adult environmentalists. And from there, like talking it through and moving in the direction of like not just analyzing the trend, but analyzing like how the trend was received in our society, and also kind of taking a side, which is a really brave thing to do as a writer. And that's how we ended up with the title In Defense of the Visco Girl, which I just think is like a cool example of like just like the students like the work doing the work for itself, like just like you read this piece and you're like, oh my god, there are these incredible ideas here that just by asking a few questions we can really like tease out. Okay, so this is the WordPress for Only Magazine, which we started last semester. So we have like poems, thoughts on quarantine, an essay on mental health. One of my favorite things that happened with this was one of the students who was really like really instrumental in getting this started like I knew she was an incredible writer, and then it turned out she was also a really good graphic designer and had this like really unique skill set and like really unique like style that I don't think I would have realized if we hadn't been forced to start like a WordPress instead of a print magazine. So that was really cool. I am going to pop this link in the chat so that y'all can peruse at your own leisure. That's all I have pretty much. Thanks so much. And I think if there aren't questions, I can't tell if there are because I'm screen sharing.
I think we'll keep going because we have like 6
We're
more
running
people.
out of time.
Yeah. So I'd like to bring Malaya up, Olive, if that's all right. And if you put the link right in the chat, people can check out Only Magazine on WordPress. And just want to express my gratitude for Olive, because I was juggling a lot of editing and getting sponsorship and coordinating copy editing and translating and design and delivery, and it was a lot. And so this has been such a help. So I want to say thank you from my heart to your heart, Olive, for coming on board. And we are always looking for support because I need to give Olive a stipend. I could do things for free when I need to scrape by, but Olive needs to live, right? And I don't want to take that from Olive. And so we are always out there looking for sponsorship, support, and in doing so, you're making our program sustainable and you're giving our gift to more students who can then join, because it does take a lot of time to work with the students. And when we give that time, we cannot spend that time working somewhere else, right, to pay the bills. So I'll just put that out there to thank you in advance. When I mentioned that another time, someone wrote us a check for $500. So if that is you on this call and you are able to do that, we appreciate you. We need 5 of you for our writing program. So I would just put that out there. Thank you. And Malaya, if you could come on up, I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint here and make sure I share the screen for Malaya.
Good afternoon. My name is Malaya Combs. I am an 11th grader at Mariana Bersetti Academy in North Philadelphia. I am a team contributor for Motivos. I believe I first heard of Motivos and I first joined Motivos in mid-August, so I really haven't been with Motivos for too long. One thing I can say though, joining Motivos was probably one of the best things I did. I first heard of Motivos from my assistant principal. It was first presented to me as a journalism program, which kind of made me excited to join because I really love writing. And I feel like just by joining Motivos, it would allow me to turn my creativity into something beautiful. As I get older, I'm starting to admire writing more, which kind of be more eager to join Motivos because I wanted to write. And I would say that another main reason is I joined Motivos is because of the youth-filled environment. So what I mean by the youth-filled environment, I really like the fact that teams similar to me, who also am my writing, we're a part of one team, just bouncing ideas off each other and giving each other feedback, and nobody is criticized or made fun of. And we all have different strengths. So I have a strength in like social media and like that marketing a little bit. So I was able to take that and apply it to the Motivos social media. And then what I also really like about the Motivos youth and the team is that everyone wants their voices to be heard, and we kind of have the same purpose for joining the team, and we all have really bright ideas, which is to be heard and have our stories out for people to hear. And that's why I believe the team is also really effective in working together. And after kind of being able to experience that team environment, especially the Motivos team, it made me want to join Motivos even more. And since I joined the Motivos team, I feel like my effort and my ability to work with a team and split tasks upon everyone and others, I feel like that has strengthened. So with my first week with Motivos, I was able to create teasers. So both of the teasers have to do with Brian Rodriguez's article, Keeping Your Financial Vision 2020. So what I did for that teaser is I reached out to some youth, and I got a lot of youth from different programs involved, and I was able to ask them a few questions based on like their future goals and like their visions, and put that video together. And then within Motivos, I was also able to brainstorm a series of stories for the magazine. So I think I have about 5 stories that I'm currently working on, and I feel like Motivos really has helped me get involved but it also has taught me that being involved can help you find different things that you like or that you're passionate about. So just from being a part of the team, I realized that I like writing more than I do, well, more than I thought. And Ms. Janae, she has been really helpful and letting me turn my ideas into something creative. So the first story I wrote is called Through Mentorship, I Found My Passion. This story is based on my experience with mentorship in the medical field, and it tells the story of a girl, me, who was looking for her passion but with doubts, and also tells how my mentor helped me realize what was in me. Not only does it tell what my mentor did to help me, but it also goes into how I found what I was passionate about. So I'm gonna read a piece from my magazine, well, my story. It says, having a mentor to guide me made me realize my love for medicine. One experience that really impacted me was the heart anatomy lab. We went over the chambers, ventricles, arteries, and how the heart pumps blood. I was able to hold a real human heart. I saw it with my own eyes, perfectly shaped, mind blowing. This is what my heart looks like. Fascinating. It was amazing. This event gave me some insight on the heart, which changed me. It changed the way I think, even my goals. That's when I knew this field was meant for me. So I think what really inspired me to write this story is one, wanted to appreciate mentor for helping me find my passion, which is medicine. And also other teens my age are the ones that inspire me to continue or finish writing it. So this story is kind of a way for me to share my experience with the youth, because I know that many teens my age can relate to being challenged or having doubts about themselves, especially when deciding what they are passionate about. So everyone wants to go into a career and make sure that they're doing something that they love. We don't want to be stuck doing something that we don't like. And I just felt like writing this story would allow me to share my experience, to show the youth, the young, that there are people that want to help them, people who want the best for them, and there are resources, but it's a matter of getting that help. And sometimes it could be really hard to have motivation, especially in the world we live in, and it's hard to get access and get the things we need in order to succeed. And life kind of just throws obstacles at us, and we're kind of just placed in it with no instructions. And I think having a mentor's guidance can really be helpful. So I'm not saying that mentorship can give us all of this or everything that we need, but it at least meets us halfway. So it can at least help us get the resources and build our network, and get um, meet people who are in fields of our interest. And I feel like mentorship has really changed my perspective and given me a brighter view of my work and my road and my passion. And I learned to see the bright side of things instead of the bad side of things because of mentorship, and to do things passionately with a purpose. So before, I wouldn't say I exactly did anything without a purpose, but I would say I just did things because I thought it would like benefit me. But now I learned to do things because I'm really passionate about it, and it can really help me go into the medical field and be successful. So I believe that my story can reach many youth, and which it will show them I did it, so can you. Teens my age are really are my inspiration and why I wrote this story. And even though the story is just my point of view, I think it will encourage many to go after what they know and love, no matter the obstacles, and hope that many see that I want them to succeed. And that's my overall purpose for writing this story. Thank you. Would anyone like me to answer any questions?
I just want you to read in the chat there, Malaya, because you're getting a lot of thumbs up, awesome, great job, quotes. Malaya is a true go-getter, and we're gonna hold these questions. You can ask Malaya questions, but I want to make sure we get Eric and James and Desiree and Michelle in there. So I'm gonna share my screen. Hold those questions for Malaya. I know you've got them, and I'm gonna have James and Eric come on. Now James and Eric have they're on the same page in the article. So Eric, if you would jump in, and then James, you'll be right after Eric.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Helena. I graduated from Penn State University with a bachelor's in electrical engineering. And now I currently work for the city of Dover as one of their electrical engineers. I found out about Motivo. First, I want to say, this is great. I haven't seen people my age in so long. Yeah, so I found out about Motivos from my sister, Jerica Helena. She wrote 2 pieces for Motivos and was actually at the at the Meet the Author back in November 2019. She attended. She's a psychiatrist working in Allentown right now for St. Luke's Hospital. And I remember her coming to me and she's like, oh, you know, Janae reached out to me and she said, there's this piece on resilience. And I know like you had a hard time in college. Like, do you think that there's any wisdom you can sort of, you know, provide for that? Because I remember her asking me beforehand, months before, you know, when she was just writing stuff, she said, would you ever be interested? I'm like, yeah, I think it'd be great. You know, back to what Janae said, like, I want to be a watermelon for people. You know what I mean? Like, I like sometimes people need watermelon. And I think the reason that I'm so resilient is because of my support system, because of the family that I have, the friends that I have in my circle. And not a lot of people have that. You know, for the people who don't have that, I think it's important for them to, you know, for other people's altruism to come together so that, you know, you have this sort of this non-parental, non-friendly just support that you can, you know, find online and you know, within the Motivos magazine. You know, I haven't attended any event. This is the only piece that I wrote, the Don't Lose Faith piece for the Resilience edition. But I definitely like to continue to be involved. And I think today is, you know, this is, I guess, my second event. It's fun. It's fun. I think a lot of you have like super interesting stories. You know, if I don't have the time to read these, you know, I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds. Like I find out about the articles and I'm like learning about where they came from. So I'm going to read a little piece from mine. Why am I getting called? I'm sorry. One of the interesting parts of my piece is just towards the end. It's like a mantra. You know, it's important to avoid comparing your path to success to anyone else's, because you'll never be satisfied with your accomplishments and never get over your failures. Failing does not make you a failure. If you learn from your mistakes and remain resilient, you're guaranteed to move forward with your education and persevere in whatever you set your mind to. I know that for me, I had quite a hard time in college from day one. I went to W.B. Saul High School in Roxborough, which is close to Philadelphia, or it's in Philadelphia, something like that. And you know, it wasn't necessarily a very challenging high school. So going to Penn State, it all hit me at once. And I sort of struggled all the way throughout. You know, being a first generation college student, I didn't really know how to schedule. The advisors had so many people in engineering that they really couldn't provide you with, like, you know, some supervision or some assistance that a school counselor would in high school. My counselor in Philadelphia, she my high school counselor, she was the counselor for 4 different schools. She was only there 1 day a week, servicing 4 different schools across Philadelphia. So she was really spread thin. And so not a lot of people had, you know, the assistance. And I know a lot of people in my college or in my high school, you know, they were going to be first generation college students. And so, you know, even for those people who are like me and who have made mistakes, you know, scheduling errors or scheduling all your fun classes in the beginning and then having 2 21 credit semesters back to back, it's really stressful. And if I could go back in time, I'd change a few things, but, you know, no regrets. I'm here. I kept pushing forward, and, you know, I'm thankful that I can share my story, and hopefully someone else reads this and you know, it clicks for them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And we're going to hold questions for Eric. They're in the chat. So Eric, you can see them and then we'll respond to those at the end.
Cool.
And James, if you would be so kind as to share parts from your article and kind of the thoughts behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, my name is James. I'm a rising senior at Cornell University. Found out about Motivos through Janae, who, yeah, was in Cornell as an undergrad and used to live in the same housing cooperative as I do now. Last year, we hosted Janae for a communication and self-advocacy workshop for the community. And a bit afterward, Janae reached out to me and asked if I wanted to write. And here I am. So the first piece that I wrote was back in January. It's about being sick from a virus. I know it's coincidentally and awfully fitting. So I've abridged it a little bit. So here I go. With university's never-ending treadmill of drudgery, there's no good time to be sick. In my freshman year, I coughed my way through a week of classes to the dismay of all of my classmates and professors. During that week, I stayed up late to trudge through schoolwork, exacerbating my symptoms and infecting my roommate. Eventually, my uvula, the flesh that hangs from your throat ceiling, was so irritated that it drooped onto my tongue. I realized that I inherited a toxic mindset from my years at high school, that I had to dig in and wade through any storm. I developed another fever in my junior year, but I knew I could not repeat my mistake. I tucked myself under my bed sheets for days. My homework and deadlines left me in the dust, but I had learned that fighting through illness did not reflect strength, only stubbornness. Had I not taken care of myself, I could have gotten my housemates and my classmates sick. So to me, resilience is not the ability to brave through a storm, but to know when to batten down the hatches. With this piece, I thought it was really important to highlight my mindset of toughing things out when I should really be treating my body in a healthy way. I think that many people, not just me, internalize this narrative of like working ourselves to the bone at college and at work. For instance, we have no mandatory federal paid sick leave. A lot of Americans can't afford healthcare, so they don't go to the doctors. Schools even need like a doctor's note for students to prove they're sick. Like my parents never had time to like take me to a doctor because they have work. So I went to high school sick so many times. But yeah, I think these policies and systems really warp people's perceptions of what they're entitled to. And for me, I had to unlearn those perceptions. Our minds and bodies deserve to be treated better by society and also by ourselves, especially amidst this pandemic. Yeah, thank you.
Questions at the end. Thank you, James, for sharing that. It's very indicative about how, you know, some people still don't want to wear masks, right? Because it's an infringement or it's an extra thing, but yet it keeps everyone healthy, or at least it should, right? So it's very relevant even to today. So that was kind of the college prep section of the magazine, and now the career section. So we've got a couple of speakers on the career section. Desiree did an article on a band, and I want to bring Desiree up now. I'm going to share my screen here.
So, hello everyone. My name is Desiree Fernandez. I'm a sophomore at community college. My major is art and design. I'm also taking a real estate class. So I met Janae when I was around 7 or 8 years old, and my brother was involved in Motivos. And I just remember seeing like these older kids talking and writing about their experiences, like all through writing. And I knew I wanted to do something like that. So around my sophomore year of high school, that's when I got involved in Motivos, and I published my first article, how to get a sports scholarship for student athletes. And from there, it's just been great. I got a chance to interview former Councilman David O, at large David O, former NFL player Tim Massaquoi, and Udini Lavos, which is a Panamanian rapper. So it's just great, and I've really stepped outside my comfort zone. So in this article, it's an East LA band called Quetzal, and we just talked about their music influences, what inspires them, who would they like to collaborate in the future. And basically, one of my favorite quotes was, "The life of a musician is not all glamorous." And that's so true, because we see people in the media today how, oh, they're on like nice houses, nice cars, and all that. But it's true that like, you know, your mental health, of course, is very important, and all that is just a front. So I love how they're so like genuine. That's why when I was talking to them, it just felt like I knew them already. We're just having a conversation, and they're just really authentic. And yeah, it was just amazing. And they just talked about everything, how one of the musicians they went to school with, Celia Cruz came to their school. It was just amazing, like Tito Puentes. And it was just so cool because, you know, I'm Latin too, and I love percussion, I love music. So it was just great to like hear all their stories and where they came from. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your personal interest in music and some things you do on the side creatively besides writing.
So I was into, let me see. I used to like beats, and I still do like beats and music percussion. But I think I kind of like, it's not good to say that I gave up on it, but I found another form of art, which is drawing and graphic design. So I'm learning that, and I want to learn more about augmented reality, which is, as you see, the famous game called Pokemon Go. We just see through our phones, or like filters that we do on Instagram. All that is augmented reality. So I'm trying to learn more about that, and graphic design with starting like fashion and clothing. And I like soon hope to pursue that and start my own clothing brand.
Awesome. And hold those questions for Desiree. If you put them in the chat so you don't forget, she can see them. You might want to put Desiree, colon, and then the questions so we keep them all straight. And I'm going to bring Karime back up. So Karime has an article now in the career section about Sophia De Leon, who popped in here and had to pop back out. She's actually running a restaurant while we're doing this. So kudos to her. And she's got a special, since you guys have stuck around to the end, we have one more speaker after Karime, but since you've stuck around to the end, we have a deal for you, which is $10 off your order of $50 or more at El Mercury at the end, right? Or free churro with the order of a platter. And that's in person because the churros come with the ice cream, and the ice cream would melt on its way to your house. So you have to go there. But the other one you can get where you are right now. So Karime, I'm going to bring you back up to tell us about Sophia De Leon and El Mercury and your wonderful conversation interview with her.
So hello again, everyone. As she said, my name is Karime Font. For my second and final article of the evening, I will be presenting Sobremesa, Motivos Talks with a Restaurateur, which was in the new Vision edition. And this was the first interview I have ever done in my life. And I could tell you that I was so overwhelmed and nervous with this. I just kept practicing and practicing just so I could get it so perfect. And, you know, as most things you do for the first time, it wasn't anywhere near perfect. But for this article, I interviewed Sophia De Leon, who is the owner of a Guatemalan restaurant called El Mercury, which is located here in Philadelphia. I conducted this interview in mid-March, just before the world shut down due to the coronavirus. Her restaurant is located in Center City, and I have never actually seen the city so quiet and empty like it was that day. We spoke about her experiences coming to this country for the first time alone, to go to college, and how once she started working in the food industry, which was what she studied, she saw a lack of Latino representation. So she wanted to do something about it, and she opened El Mercury. So here's an excerpt of that article. Now it's mid-March, and we are sitting in the unusually empty restaurant, attempting to ignore the striking silence on this normally bustling downtown Philly street, caused by the fresh fear that COVID-19 has reached the US and forced many businesses to close. I asked De Leon about her motivation to keep the business going when hard times hit. With the optimism and excitement she has maintained throughout this whole interview, she exclaims, "What keeps me going is that this is my passion. This is my baby. This is everything. I have put so much work into it. We built the business from scratch. Failure is not an option." So, does anybody have any questions about the article?
We're gonna hold the questions till the end. Michelle is still gonna go. And this is the QR code from Sophia. And by the way, Karime, Arturo and I went down there. We ate a bunch of food. It was delicious. and she said you were super professional in your interview. So sometimes even though you think, it's not good enough, she said you were wonderful. So just to have that feedback, to know how you came across to her. And this is the QR code, guys. So you could take a picture of this. You can use the code Motivos20. So Motivos20 when you order online, or when you call in, you mention it. If you go in person, you mention it as you're ordering on their touchscreen thing. Motivos20 will give you $10 off an order of $50 or more, or it'll give you the free churro with the order of a platter. And the platter has like 2 pupusas and like beans and rice with it, or aguacate con like plantain chips, etc. So take advantage of that. I know you're gonna be hungry after this. So that's El Mercan. It's 21st and Chestnut for those of you who work downtown. I know Gabby's dad has gone before as well. And then for our last speaker, we're gonna have Michelle Sebarino. So this is Michelle. Michelle was also an Inspiration in the Community recipient on the cover of the Endurance edition. And Michelle is a graduate of Temple University out in the work world now. Michelle.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Michelle Severino. I, like Janessa said, I graduated from Temple as a journalist and Latin America Studies major. And I believe I met Janae and got involved with Motivos about 5 or 6 years ago. And I believe we met through community college because I first graduated from there and then transferred over to Temple University. And I believe she went to an event to kind of showcase her magazine and just talk about just what Motivo is and stuff like that. So I believe I got involved through that, through photography and just taking pictures and things like that. And a little bit about like the article that was written about me, going above and beyond. It really meant a lot that I was featured in Motivos, just because the last 2.5 years for me has been really a real struggle, especially because about 2 years ago I had an accident, and that really discouraged me to be able to just pursue my career and be able to just encourage other young people, which is like my ideal and my goal, to be able to encourage other students to pursue their careers. And also because my brother passed away exactly 2 years and 2 days ago. And it really helps to know that there is other people that really like care for you and like actually want to see you succeed. And like Eric Jarina was mentioning, you can really let also the success of other people, I guess, put you down. And that part is not really important, because as soon as you know your worth and know your value, to keep going and just be able to know who you are is really important. And also, like for me, now that I'm out of college, I've been working in different areas to work with young people. And currently I'm working at the Internal Revenue Service, which eventually I want to be able to work in a grad program where I'm able to help recent undergrads who are coming out of school and be able to kind of do some type of mentorship and be able to teach them on like things that I have learned through graphic design and photography and things like that. And just be able to tell them to never give up on what they want, especially like with things that I have done with Janae and her magazine, and being able to just showcase other people's talent and just being able to even through my photography show some type of like things that are possible out there as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing through Motivos. So just being able to work around what I love to do and just showcasing that to other people as well. So.
And it's so heartwarming to see that you have worked with young people at Youth Build, teaching them to brand themselves, to raise their confidence by giving them ways to hone their voice, so to speak, visually on paper. And now with the IRS recruiting students, giving them job opportunities. So we thank you for that so much. So at the end here, what I wanted to do was make sure that you guys had a way to reach back, to get involved, to let others know how they could also be a part of the magazine if they wanted to. So if you have a young person in your life this is kind of the information to get involved. I feel like it's going to switch back. It did, see? Wow. To get involved in the magazine. So you have different ways to get involved. Subscribing, of course, to engage the youth. The schools will get an educator toolkit. You can subscribe in bulk, and that's just motivosmag.com. Press Get Motivos. There's discounts when the school gets a bunch of them, and they'll get the digital and the print. And I know schools are going virtual again. Hopefully in the spring, they'll be back in person. We do bring those magazines out to meal distribution sites, though. Many of the schools in Philadelphia have families that pick up food, and they're going to the homes for Thanksgiving, bringing those magazines with the food for them. We have Zoom weekly chats with the students. So we have the Motivos team talk and trainings. Those are on Thursdays presently from 4:30 to 6. And so students are welcome to join those. We appreciate the support from the schools to subscribe in bulk and then choose 2 student representatives. That helps us sustain what we're doing. You can always contact myself directly. So Janae at Motivos Mag on email. If you want to do like a virtual talk or a workshop or something like that. So those are some different ways that you can get involved. And I'm just going to put the website here in the chat. So it's motivosmag.com. And then all you've got to do is press the thing that says Get Motivos at the top. The magazine is $15 a year. If you subscribe today, we're giving 20% back to Taller Puertorriqueño of that cost. So as many subscriptions, if all 32 people that were on the call today and the 27 that are still there do that, you do the math, and 20% of that will go right back to Taller Puertorriqueño. So we appreciate that. And Taller appreciates that with all their programming needs that they have going on. If you want to sponsor, for example, our writing instructor, and I mentioned that cost is $2,500 for the year for the stipend for Olive's time. And we would love you to do that. You can send that, and I'm just gonna be bold and put it right in here. Any amount helps. And you can just put it, if you've got a Venmo, for example, boom, there you go. Send it, and that will go right into us over to Olive to help with that. So we still need $1,500 for that. Thanks. All right, cool. Yay, awesome. I see people saying they're gonna do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you wanna support in any other way, you might not have financial resources, and that's okay. I don't have a lot of financial resources, but I have connections, and I'm a bridge person, and maybe that's you. So if you know someone who would value this for their school, helping youth hone their voice and make their own writing go from the passive voice to the active voice, to get out there, to get these stories out into the ether. And you know, they say if you see lightning in the east, you can see it in the west. It goes across. I was telling my students, these stories get through prison bars into prisons. And there's uncles calling their nieces and nephews and sharing the stories that you're sharing. And they're sharing that inspiration through those walls back out. So you have no idea how far these stories go. And we hear back. And so we thank you for that. And we ask you, if you do have connections of those who could use our workshops, Write Your Way to College, Find Your Why, Find Your Future, Speak Truth to Power, let us know. If it's for a youth development session, let us know. Helping youth development workers be more interactive through Zoom, build those trust relationships, build up empathy, let us know. And so I will just stop there. Mark Carmen saying Motivos rocks, you're very inspirational. Aw, and open it back up to questions at this time. I would love to send out a survey to everyone's email. If you can privately message me your email, that would be great. And I'll send it out to you just to get feedback. And when you do that, I will have your email, and you will be the first to get the special edition, Images in Quarantine, which just went to press, and no one has seen it except the students who were on Thursday's call. And so if you subscribe today, and if you put your email in that private chat, you will be the first to get our brand new Images in Quarantine edition. So with that, I'm going to open it back to questions for everyone. I know some of you still had questions that weren't able to ask them because we wanted to make sure all the speakers had a chance. And if you're on here, I should say, I think Amri joined. Amri is our illustrator. If you've joined and you wanted to showcase something, tell me, and we can show, yeah. Amri, if you wanted to show your illustrations, I can pull it up while people are asking questions.
Is Gabby still there?
I would love to.
You would love to. Okay, so we'll take some questions while I pull up some illustrations that Amri has done. And if Lisa, if you can facilitate the questions, that would be great.
Yeah, we have one question for Gabby and then one question. I'm using my space bar to unmute, but I can't see notes. One for Malaya also. So I don't know if you both are still here.
I'm still here, Malaya.
Okay. So the question for you was, what are your goals in the future for your work?
So for the future, I hope my goals are to go into the medical field. So right now I'm currently in 11th grade. So I hope to go to college to major in biomedicine or like biology. And like they can further into the future. I hope to go to med school and do like pre-med. And then career-wise, I want to focus on surgery. So I kind of want to take a holistic approach. So maybe would become a DO, which is a doctors of osteopathic medicine, in which I would do surgery. And the type of surgery I hope to do is heart surgery, so or any chest surgery. So the type of heart surgery I hope to do or specialize in is like transplants. So that's kind of my future goals. It's just to kind of remain in the medical field or go into the medical field and kind of focus on surgery. And also while I'm doing surgery, I also hope to do a little bit of traditional medicine. So what that would be is I would do traditional practices, which would like, instead of giving someone medicine to cure them, we would give them like herbs or like herbal tea to kind of try to help cure them. Or like if someone's having like trouble mentally or like physically, tell them to do like meditation or like workout. So like that's kind of what I hope to do in my future for my future goals.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Is Gabby still here?
Yes.
Okay. What inspired you to start writing?
Well, I always liked writing. I guess what inspired me was my parents always found like, I never really thought about it before, but my parents always thought that I was a good writer. So they took me to Motivos, and then I realized that I was good. And then I like got inspired by like when I first published it. Like my writing, I became more interested in it.
Nice, thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
This is Marie's work. Marie, are you in Florida or are you in New York right now?
I'm in Florida.
Florida. So none of us have met you face to face before. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm actually very excited to finally like put faces to like emails, but and I'm very happy to be here. But my name is Omri. I'm a current junior at Parsons School of Design. I'm studying fashion design in the systems and collection course and minoring in fashion business and entrepreneurship. I started off in fine arts in 4th grade and started doing costume design in 6th. And ever since then, I've been merging the two in whatever way best suits a project. So I love doing these illustrations for you guys. It helps me practice and expand like my portfolio. So other than that, I have a brand as well. So I do clothing and traditional paintings too. So being able to experiment all over the place is very, very good for me. So.
And Marie came to us through Maddie. Maddie is the author of our fashion column, and Maddie and I met when I was a speaker for her school, JP McCaskey, out in Lancaster years ago when she was a sophomore in high school. So it just goes to show relationships. On Thursday for Team Talk, we had a talk about why mentorship matters, and something that Dan covered was kind of tracking and keeping those relationships strong over time. And you can see how over time, one relationship led to another, and that same thing can happen in your lives. So you've all met each other here today, and already Eric wrote that his sister is a DO, and Malaya said she wants to be a DO. So already that connection has happened. And so just keep doing that, guys. Keep doing that. Be bridge builders. Reach out to each other. Desiree wants to know what the name of your brand is, Amri.
My brand's name is Ree. I can put the link in the chat actually if you guys want to look at it. But I just launched a capsule collection, and it's on there too, if you guys want to see that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And we have some more people from Costa Rica joining us. Yay!
And I think someone has a quick message for Gabby.
That's for me. I'm Sherry Nottingham. I'm actually Natalia's mother. And Gabby, I think you might be the youngest author here. And I just wanted to tell you how powerful that was and what a strong voice you have. You're so articulate. And I'm not even going to say it just because you're so young, but you're very gifted. And I want to share a quick story. When I was in 7th grade, my father was in the Army. And I was living in North Carolina, and he said that we would have to move to Germany. I kid you not, I cried the entire 5-hour trip to Germany across the entire Atlantic Ocean because I thought I was grieving the loss of my friends. And we returned back for a holiday, and I was so excited to see my friends. And now you have to understand, I had gotten to see Germany, France, Netherlands, and a lot of part of Europe, but I still was missing my friends so terribly. So when I got back, I realized that everybody else was doing the same thing that they were doing a year ago, and I still miss them, but then I realized that I saw the world from a different viewpoint and different perspective. It made me realize when I went back to Germany at that time, it made me realize how much there is, even though we have to change, and it made me really stronger and resilient. And so you have recognized at a very young age what change is all about and how you can embrace that. And so when I worked in the corporate world, and this is my final message, I kid you not, we had change management consultants come and speak to us because what they said is change is the only constant, meaning no matter what we do, there is always going to be change. And they talked about how you handle change and the mindset that you have is going to make you better equipped. So I just wanted to let you know what you have been experiencing. And it's not that it doesn't come with pain, because a lot of things that we have are painful, but I just wanted to tell you how powerful that was for me to even listen to, because I was in that situation when I was in 7th grade. So I just wanted to let you know that it really resonated with me.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure. Everybody here this was such an incredible forum, and I'm very grateful to have participated. So thank you to all.
Thank you for coming, and thank you everyone for spending this time with us. I know time is the thing most important that we can give each other. And so you've all given your time to us and to the others on the Zoom call today. So I want to thank you, and I'm putting in the chat a form of thank you. So this is a link to our Resilience Edition, which came out at the beginning of coronavirus back in March. And it's a link to the video of the contributors talking about it. So you'll see Natalia on there, and you'll see James on there, and you'll see Karime on there. And there's also a link to our educator toolkit. So keep those, share them with an educator you know. There's one in English and there's one in Spanish. And Olive was instrumental in putting those together with us. And so that's a way to really engage young people in the content, help them think about how it applies to their life, challenge them to think about their dreams, and to share that with a teacher or a mentor in their life. So that's our gift. Remember, send your email, do a little private message if you want to be one of the first ones to get the special edition, which is Images in Quarantine.
So, Janae, thank you so much for this. As usual, it's always very incredibly inspirational to see the work that you accomplish with the magazine and for the kids. And I haven't been so much in presence because I'm having a cold, and I thought, which it was, would have interrupted with my sneezing and coughing. But I appreciated every single participation, and this session was recorded, so we will be posting it in our website in a few days or so. So if you want others to see it, please, share the link with other people. And thank you so much for your participation, and thank you, Lisa, for managing such a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Tyre,
thanks,
for having
thanks
us.
to all of you.
Yes, a lot of work. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Bye.